Hey guys, and welcome to Outdoor Asylum. This is Brad Allen. I'm here with producer Jake Seifert. How you doing, Jake?
Doing real good. How are y'all?
Doing great. Sitting here filming and recording the podcast in the Cache River studio here at the Elite Duck Call Shop. Guys, I've got a special guest today, and I just want to preface this before I introduce him. I just want to say that you need to stick around for this entire podcast. The gentleman I'm about to introduce you to, he's primarily a fisherman, although he does a little bit of everything. And even if you're really not into fishing, if you're somehow really not into competitive bass fishing, something like that, you're going to want to hear this gentleman's story. So stick around, and I promise you're going to find this very interesting, very inspiring. So stay with us, folks. Without further ado, my guest, my good friend Hunter Baughman. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us today.
Man, I'm tickled to be here.
Here you just got off of a lake fishing late last night, kind of dragging a little this morning?
A little bit dragging, a little bit slow, but I'm here.
Where were you fishing? Table Rock?
Table Rock.
How far of a drive was that for you?
3 hours each way.
Man. And what time did you get home last night?
7:30 or 8. It wasn't too bad, but I left at 3:30. So
yeah. It was a pretty long day getting there and
day.
fishing. Yeah, definitely. So let's tell our audience a little bit some of your past accomplishments as far as your competitive fishing. What have you won in the past?
So I've won a bunch of little club tournaments and stuff. You know, my biggest accomplishment would be winning a Mr. Bass of Arkansas at Lake Millwood in 2018. That's if you're familiar at all with professional bass fishing, Greg Hackney, Mark Davis, Stephen Browning, Scott Rook, they all came through the Mr. Bass of Arkansas circuit. It's the longest individual circuit in the state of Arkansas, and it's basically every pro that has fished has come through that's fished at Arkansas. So.
Awesome. You were Mr. Bass of Arkansas.
For one lake. I wasn't, not overall, but I won one lake.
With that lake? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, so you just accepted an invitation to be part of a new league, professional fishing. So what was the name of the new league?
So it's called the National Professional Fishing League. And it's new for 2021. It will be a national level tour. They sent out like 300 invites. They had 300 applications. They sent out 125 invites. And I was fortunate enough to get one of those invites, and I've put together enough to decide to go ahead and sign the contract, and I'm in for next year and beyond. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. It doesn't mean 300 people apply and they only pick 125 nationwide.
Nationwide.
Okay, awesome.
Outside of nationwide, I think there's some from Canada as well. So
okay, so they've got. I read a little bit about it. So they selected 125 people. So you sent an application, and they chose you to be one of the members of it.
Yes.
Okay. So, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but it's 125 guys on one lake for 3 days. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the most weight for the day is the winner.
The most weight cumulative
for the 3 days.
Yes,
I got
is
you.
the winner.
I got you.
And we'll have 6 tournaments: 2 spring, 2 summer, and 2 fall.
Okay. And it's solo fishing only.
Solo fishing only. Yes, sir.
Awesome. What kind of prize package are you looking at with some of these tournaments?
So, beginning to win would be $50,000. They're working hard. I've talked to the owners of it, and they're striving to put some sponsorship money together to where we're fishing for more than that. But just starting out, base is $50,000 to win. Works its way on down to $9,000 is 45th place.
$9,000 for 45th.
Yes.
It's not a bad deal, is it?
No, that'd be pretty good.
$50,000. I could find a couple things I could do with 50
Maybe.
grand. Yeah, maybe. I know my wife would be excited if I knew how to fish. She'd be pushing me into this, or at least knew how to fish better than I do. I know how to wet a hook, but I'm not a great fisherman by any stretch. So how's this tournament going to compare? Like I'm not a competitive fisherman myself. I really follow it that closely, but compare it to like FLW and Bassmasters. I know those. I've heard those two names a lot. So comparing to those tournaments, what's going to be the difference here?
So it'll be very similar to your top tier FLW Tour or your Bassmaster Elite Series. It will be a nationwide. There'll be pretty there'll be a lot of coverage from live media, extensive. They're going to have media tables before the tournament after each day where they'll do interviews and kind of press conference type deal. It'll be, it's top tier. It's as high as it goes.
How much? I'm guessing with that much prize money, your entry fee is not. It's not $50, is it? What?
75. No, it's they're $5,000 a tournament.
Wow.
So,
what about sponsorships? You currently, I'm sure you have a few sponsors.
I secured enough to go ahead and sign the contract and to fish next year. But yeah, I am looking. It's something that, it's some people. I've approached some companies and they look at it like a donation, and it's not. It's an advertisement. It's not. When you go put Elite Calls on a billboard, you're not writing that down as a donation. The Elite Calls is on a billboard. I mean, that's what it is. It's a rolling billboard. It's a boat and truck with your name down the side of it. It's me on live platforms across the nation talking about sponsorships. It's talking about your company.
Yeah.
There's lots of benefits there. So it's definitely it's a win-win for myself and for the business as well,
Yeah, so you're currently also, I guess you're taking on sponsors all the time. You find
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Well, if there's anybody out there listening, I'm telling you, you couldn't find a better person to sponsor. Someone's going to treat your company any better than Hunter. So anybody out there listening, looking for some type of sponsorship or supporting someone like this would be a great partnership, that I'm sure. So anyway, there's really no delicate way to get into this. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here, okay? And for all you guys that are listening on the podcast, first, I'm not talking about
quarantine has been rough on me.
No, I know. You've been home a lot. We've all been overeating a little bit. I wasn't talking about you, man.
Okay.
Jake is so sensitive.
I'm kind of sensitive.
No, man, Hunter, you've got some physical challenges. And I'm not going to refer to it as an impairment or disability. Certainly would never use the word handicap, because you've overcome these challenges that you've had in amazing fashion. But tell everyone, especially our listening audience, some of those impairments that you're dealing with you're in a wheelchair. So go through some of that with us. What some of these physical impairments that you're dealing with.
So I am amputee on both legs below the knee. I've got no fingers on my left hand. I've got partial fingers on my right hand. And I've been that way since I was 9 months old. And I had a form of bacterial meningitis.
Bacterial meningitis that caused this. So surgically, yes,
sir.
Had to have this thing. This had to be removed at 9 months.
Yes, and it was 114-degree core fever. It was bad. Shouldn't live. If I lived, I wouldn't know my name. So just some really good doctors and the good Lord taking care of me on that one for sure.
So they were expecting a lot of mental impairment that's just not there.
From the high fevers, yes.
Wow. So you're in a lot of ways, very blessed to be alive.
Absolutely. They didn't expect me to live, much less function when I lived.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, a lot of people are familiar with a bass fisherman with similar challenges, Clay Dyer.
Absolutely.
So just to make sure everybody that's listening, this is not Clay Dyer we're speaking with. This is Hunter. So with Clay, I believe now you and I both heard Clay give a testimony at a church, a men's outdoor supper, a church related function. So I think his was strictly at birth. I don't think he had the same type of impairment, but he's similar in that he lacking legs. I think he's above knee, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's like almost at the hip, and he doesn't have much either on his arms. It's pretty incredible. He ties knots with his tongue and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever met him? Have you talked to Clay?
Not in depth. I've met him a couple of times. I talked to him that night. We were at that church, but that's the extent of it. just visiting here and there.
Did you get into any conversations about fishing or anything like that?
No, we did not.
Didn't talk about it?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that leads me to, I've got to tell a couple of funny stories. Some things about Hunter. Hunter's a cut up, man. He's a fun guy to be around. And I'll tell you two stories. Like, one Halloween, I'm sitting here scrolling through social media, looking on Facebook, and I see this picture pop up. And I just nearly fell out of my chair. And my wife is like, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Hunter, you got to see this." Hunter dressed up as Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump for Halloween. And it was the best costume in the world. You had the shirt, you had the wig on with the long hair, the sunglasses, even had the bottle wrapped in the paper bag in one hand. I mean, that was absolutely awesome. Was that your idea?
No, that was my wife's idea, Andrea's idea. She was like, "You got to do this." I'm like, "Whatever. If you put it all together, that's fine." And so nothing bothers me. Like, you could crack jokes. I'm the first one to make a foot joke or, whatever. Like, it doesn't bother me. And Andrea takes it to the limit to the point that it makes people uncomfortable, which she thinks is hilarious.
Yeah, leave it to your wife. Leave it to her. How'd you meet Andrea?
I met her actually online.
Okay.
So
How long you been married?
been married 6 years last October.
6 years. Wow. Good deal. The other funny story involves my wife even more than just she and I laughing about that. I'm a physical, for those of you that don't know, I'm a physical therapist by trade. Before I went into making duck calls full time, I was a physical therapist, and my wife is a physical therapist as well. That's how we met, and she is now teaching. She's a college professor. My dad always said, "Son, if you're going to be the stupid, you're going to find a woman a lot smarter than you," which that didn't narrow down the field for me very much. It was a big field, but I managed to do very well, married a very smart, very beautiful woman. But she's a physical therapist. Well, one day Hunter called me, knowing me as a physical therapist. Hunter called and it was a wheelchair evaluation that you were needing, right? So
Right.
For those you don't know, for your insurance and everything covering a wheelchair, you have to have an evaluation done. And
It's a pain in the butt.
it
just
really,
for the
yeah,
record.
yeah. And to get one is really not easy. And, someone like yourself, you're like, well, duh, get the man what he needs.
I have to prove I'm still legless. That I hadn't grown them back.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. It's insane. It's one of the things being a physical. There's a lot of frustration with insurance companies. I could do a podcast about it and talk for 3 days without stopping. But anyway, Hunter called me needing to get this evaluation done, to turn in everything, to jump through all the hoops to get the wheelchair, get a new one purchased. And so I said, "Man, I'm not doing that anymore, but my wife is working the same clinic that I did." So I referred Hunter. I said, "Hey, go talk to Melissa, and she'll be glad to hook you up." So Melissa did the evaluation, and one day she calls me, and she said, "Brad, I got a question, Brad. I can't believe I got a question." "What's wrong, babe?" She said, Hunter Baughman, yeah. Does he have knees?" And I just said, "I'm like, what? Hell, I don't know. That's just not." I thought about it. That's not something you ever ask someone. "Hey, got knees?" It's not like milk. You got milk, got knees. We don't talk about this. So I thought about it, and I said, "Man, I think so, but I'm not sure why." And she said, "I did testing and range of motion, everything. I sent it in, and they're telling me that what I recorded on knee range of motion should not be there because the doctors have said Hunter doesn't have knees." So she said, "We're having an argument back and forth with the doctor's office about whether or not Hunter has knees." And she said, "Here's the thing. I really don't want to call him and ask him this question." And I just fell out, and I said, "No, I know Hunter. He's going to get a kick out of this." So yeah, I gave him a call, but she argued back and forth. So we established that you did, in fact, correct, do have
Correct.
knees. But that's that story. She still, the way she laughed, she's like, "I can't do this. I can't pick this phone up. I can't make the call." So. But yeah, man, the sense of humor you've got about everything is just incredible. So let's go back and talk about little Hunter for a little while. Let's go back into childhood. We may get into some type of a psychiatric eval before this is over. We'll get you a
I'll be
couch.
crying.
Yeah. If you start crying, I'll cry. Jake will cry. It'll be a bad deal. But so tell me about your mom and dad. What'd your mom and dad, what they do for a living?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom
Okay.
my whole life. My dad worked grocery his whole life. He went from Safeway, Harvest Foods, Kroger, and then when, I don't know, I think I was about 11, they opened Save-A-Lot grocery store. They opened a couple of them, one in North Little Rock, one in not Hot Springs, one in Conway. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know my geography, apparently. And so I grew up in a grocery store, basically. I mean, especially the first few years it was open, that's where Mom and Dad were every day, and then Mom would take me home of the evening, Dad stayed till they closed. That's what they've done my whole life, and just have supported me through everything. They've told me I'm able to do anything that I want to do and set my mind to it. I can figure out a way to do it. And they've treated me, completely normal, which I think has a lot to do with my mentality. Mm-hmm. Like, if I say I can't do that, that wasn't an option. Yes, you can figure it out. Mm-hmm. And now when somebody tells me I don't think you can do that, I have the same mentality. I'm like, no, shut up. I can. Mm-hmm. So but that falls strictly back on my parents raising me that way, and I'm grateful they did, for sure.
Yeah. So I was always wondering, I figured, just knowing parents, I was thinking, I bet he's going to tell me that his dad was pretty tough on him. His mother tended to baby him a little bit. That was
backwards.
Not the case. It was backwards.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, everybody knows my parents, knows my mom's the Spitfire, the one she's pretty hard on me. She wouldn't let me. My dad, disciplined, but he was always the laid back one. It was always, hey, Dad, can I do this? Ask your mom, or.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's actually backwards.
Yeah. So, what about siblings?
I've got a sister that graduates in about 3 weeks. She's 18. Congratulations, Peyton, because they're not going to get to have a graduation, I don't guess, with all this going on.
Yeah.
And then I had a brother in 2000 that was born 3 months premature. He lived 5 months and passed away. Never got to come home from the hospital. Uh-huh. And that is it. So almost like two only kids. My sister's 18 and I'm 33. So a
little bit of a gap there.
A little bit.
Yeah. So how are things with your sister? How's that dynamic between the two of you?
It's good. She's good. I was at home still, 7 or 8 years. She was 7 or 8 when I moved out, I think, or maybe a little older than that. But, we fought some, but not really much. We just kind of did our own thing most of the time. Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, kind of childhood dreams did you have when you were little? I remember, as kids, we all have big dreams of what we're going to do. For me, despite the fact that I was a redneck from Beattyville, Arkansas, I had big plans. I was fairly tall, and I loved playing basketball, and I had it mapped out. When I was young, you asked me what I was going to do. I was going to go play for the Razorbacks basketball. I was going to be an All-American, and then I'd go to the NBA, and I had it figured out that Magic Johnson would be retiring about the time I was moving in. I was going to take his place with the Lakers and move in there and set up and be famous out there in Los Angeles. Things didn't quite turn out that way.
Magic Allen, is that what you were going to be?
Magic Allen. Yeah, I wish anybody called me that ever in my life or anything. But yeah, Magic Allen. So there was Magic Mike though. I don't think.
Well, that's different.
Magic Brad. Yeah, I don't. That was different.
Yeah,
that's a totally different genre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But so for you, what was that when you were a small child? What'd you want to be?
So for a while, I wanted to actually play basketball, and I wanted to be a cop. And I figured out that, obviously with my condition, police is not a thing. I can't physically do it. Mm-hmm. And I figured out from my height and my sporting ability that basketball is not my thing. And, I fished and I kept up with fishing, but really when I was 12 or 13, I really started, I was like, man, this fishing thing, that looks like a lot of fun, and it kind of found the competitor in me, like the part that wanted to play basketball but couldn't compete. I did. I wore prosthetics, and that's a whole nother story, but I wore prosthetics and I played basketball and soccer up till high school. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't very good at either one, and I don't think it had a whole lot to do with the prosthetics. It just, I don't come from an athletic family. Mm-hmm. But the competitiveness was there, and so I'll try not to make this too long, but when I was 14 or 15, I guess, I decided I want to fish the Arkansas Big Bass Bonanza on the river. And all we had at home was a flat bottom with 8 horsepower. Is all we had. I mean, we didn't have much growing up. My family was crappie fishermen. I'm really the first bass fisherman out of a whole bunch of crappie fishermen. Mm-hmm. And we had a family friend that at the time owned a boating company. And I approached him and was like, hey, I want a boat for this tournament. And he gave us a boat to use for a 3-day tournament. And we didn't catch any fish, and it was terrible. My dad and I fished, but I thought that was cool. And ended up getting a boat, fishing some tournaments. Man, I fished for like 4 or 5 years without cashing a check. And I thought how terrible it was. And then one day, Brad, my cousin, I've grown up with, he's like a brother. We fish together all the time. We Big Bass Bonanza, actually. We won the Little Rock pool overall and won $4,500 as a teenager. And then about a month later, we won a championship on Lake Hamilton and won another $1,000. And I'm like, man, this is the deal. Like, I can pay to go hunting from catching fish. I like this.
Yeah.
And I swear that I catch fish to pay to go hunting. But, that's my 2 big things I love so much. But it just kind of grew from there, and then I started putting it's a lot of hard work, and it has nothing to do with the disability aspect of it. I mean, it's just when I had buddies that were going out to hang out on Friday night, I was tying fishing line and getting a boat ready, and when they were coming in of a morning, I was leaving to go fish. And, I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices along the way, but I've just kind of slowly worked my way up through club tournaments and, to the state level, and I fished some regional level stuff and had some success at that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, but that's kind of where the hopes and dreams came from, was just I want to be competitive, and the fish doesn't know what's on the other end of the line. I mean, it doesn't matter what I look like, or I figured out a way to use the boat, and I don't really have any adaptive equipment in the boat, but I figured out a way to use it that fits me, and just kind of roll with it.
Mm-hmm. What about school? Where'd you go to school? Starting out like as a kid or small child, where'd you go to school?
So I went to Little Rock Christian Academy, which was formerly Walnut Valley Christian Academy when I started there. But I went from first grade till I graduated at Little Rock Christian. Then went to ASU at BB for a little while, and that was the extent of it.
How were things for you in school? How'd the other kids respond to you?
It was good. A lot of the tough love stuff. I had, like we'd be in class and the bell would ring and my buddies would take my chair and leave. They like get in and roll off and be gone. Like I'd be sitting in the wrong class when it changed, and they're like, why are you here? Because I don't have a chair. And, it's just, but it was all in fun. I mean, man, there was 7 or 8 guys that I went basically my whole life in school with that I'm still friends with them, and, just a close friendship. But there was never any bad, really. I had some issues in kindergarten in another place, but I don't even hardly remember those. But, from most of my life, there's not been any bad to it. It's all been, everybody's pretty supportive, and I've got a great group of friends, they've always been there for me no matter what.
So I've heard you. I know that you're a Christian, as yes. I am, and I know that your relationship with the Lord is very important to you. I've heard you give testimonials regarding this before. Did you ever, growing up, did you ever question anything? Did you ever have any anger or any bitterness about the challenges that you faced?
Every once in a while, you'd have that day. And a lot of times it had to do with my prosthetics. They were terrible. That's why I don't wear them anymore. They were just, I hated them. I hated everything about them. And my parents made me wear them until I was about 13 or 14, just kind of old enough to make my own decisions because they wanted that option there. Every once in a while I just have that bad day, and I mean that's where the parenting came in, especially my mom. And she said, "This doesn't work. Like, get a hold of yourself. Not going to happen. You're alive, and you shouldn't be. So you're going to have a good day." And that's kind of, I hadn't allowed that to be my mentality because that's how I was raised.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of your determination and your grit came from your mom and dad.
Absolutely.
Did you have
and my grandparents too?
I was going to ask if there was anyone else that you attribute some of that to.
Yes, for sure. I had I was very close. I've still got one grandmother alive, but the rest are passed. But I was so close with both sides of my grandparents, and they were there for me to support me. And I remember my dad's dad trying to figure out how I was going to catch fish one of the first times that they took me crappie fishing, and Then realizing, I mean, he told me that growing up. It didn't take me long to realize you were going to handle it all right, but I laid in the bottom of the boat because we caught so many. I got tired of winding in fish. But
That's a good day.
yeah, for sure.
So I was going to ask you, who was the first one that took you? So it was your grandfather and your father?
Yes, together.
That went together? Yeah. Okay. So, and I think you went over this a little bit earlier. So how you started competing, how did you say you were when you went out in that little flat bottom with the 8-horse motor?
Man, I don't know exactly. I think I was 13 or 14. I was early teens. I don't remember exactly. I can tell you I had a boat before I had a truck, though.
So what was it like in that tournament when you fired up that little boat with that 8-horse motor? Did you get any funny looks, or did you take you took a different boat?
I took a different boat.
That's right.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember you saying you took a different boat out there. It would have been a great story if you'd fired up that little 8-horse and motored out there.
I fished some and some little. Matter of fact, my boat was broke down when we won that $4,500 I was talking about, and I was in a borrowed my uncle's boat. I mean, it's bigger than that. It's got a 50 on it, but it's still not near what all the other boats were. So it's not. Boats make comfort, but they don't make fishermen for sure. Mm-hmm.
So you always, I guess, you had the dream of maybe competing for. I mean, at what point did you say, you know what, I think I can go to the next level. I can actually do this professionally. Was there you remember a day, or was there a certain point, something that happened that you thought, you know what, I really think I can do this?
You know, it's kind of funny. About 4, 5, 6 years ago, something like that. You know, I had several really good years strung together to where all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them in particular that I was paying for all expenses and making money on top of it. And it's like, man, maybe the next level is something, you know. And I'd already fished at the next level, but wasn't sure that that's where I needed to be. Mm-hmm. And then really I won Mr. Bass. And even though I feel like I could compete when I won it, I mean, that is hands down the best anglers in the state of Arkansas. I was like, okay, I can, because there was the general thought pattern of what was going to happen. Everybody was talking about it before the tournament, and I did something like completely left field. I mean, like way out there that I figured out on my own and won by like 3 pounds. I mean,
so you just took a different strategy on how to fish or where to fish, and
just both. I mean, for you fishermen there listening, you know, it was at Millwood. It was supposed to be flipping and a frog, and that's it, up close. And I caught them on a crankbait on shell beds in the river channel in the current. I mean, it's like nothing. Like nobody, that didn't even cross anybody's radar that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I fished Arkansas River a lot around Little Rock, and I took that knowledge and applied it to Millwood, mm-hmm. and caught them how I was comfortable catching them. And that kind of solidified that, okay, you can compete. You are bright enough to not just do what you think you should do, but to figure out what's going on and
you
do
weren't
something.
Following the crowd.
Right,
yeah.
right. And that's what it takes to win. I mean, hands down, it takes doing something a little bit different. But as far as the national level, I believe I can compete, but I won't. At the same time, I won't know I can compete till I'm there and catch them. You know.
Going along that line of thinking, how does a guy learn? Like, how did you learn about fish? Well, besides doing it? I know there's got to be a lot of study involved in this. What's shaped a lot of your strategy other than just getting out there and doing it? Is there any other thing that you've studied or done a lot of reading or listened to other guys teach you? How's that gone?
So, you know, growing up, it was Bassmaster Magazine, FLW Magazine. A lot of it came from that. Now there's a lot of YouTube going on, and I watch some of it. I mean, you're dummy not to, because you should always be learning. But, you know, especially for the kids that are in their teens now wanting to do what I was when I was in my teens, there's so much there. Mm-hmm. You can watch anything. You can learn anything. Mm-hmm. But none of it replaces time on the water. That's the problem. I mean, those butt kickings that I've taken for so many years and got my teeth kicked in over and over and over again, those taught me more than anything. Mm-hmm. Because I leave, you know, I think I'm doing good with 12 pounds and it takes 20 to win. I get in the truck and drive home and I'm like, all right, I sucked. What can I do? You know, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I think keeps me competitive. We fished a little tournament, I don't remember, one day a couple of weeks ago on Greer's Ferry, and didn't catch them like I should, but thought I did okay. and then talked to another buddy that was just out there, and I mean, I didn't. Like, he completely caught them a lot better than I did. And I got home, and I had some stuff to do the next day, and I rescheduled everything, and I got in the truck, and I drove back to Greers Ferry, and I spent like 12 hours on Greers Ferry figuring out what went wrong the day before. And, I mean, you can't beat that. You can't watch a video, and, I mean, you can go – I don't fly. I'm not a pilot, but you can go get in a flight simulator all you want to. But until you get stuck in front of a plane, you know, it's different, just like anything else.
Yeah. So let's go through a basic fishing trip for you. So do you fish alone quite a bit? Do you usually have someone with you, or you fish alone?
I fish with somebody more than alone, but I fish alone quite a bit.
Okay.
As far as like launching the boat, I try to get somebody to launch me. I mean, I can. It's a pain.
If you launch it by yourself, how do you do it?
I've only done it a few times because it's a pain, but basically I would have to get out, unhook the boat, leave the nose hooked, and then I'd load my chair back in, unload the chair, get in the boat, move it over, park it, walk back on my knees to the chair, get in the truck, park it, roll back down to the boat, and then at that point I have to put the wheelchair in the boat, which is big and bulky and in the way.
Yeah, and you said that the boat is not modified for you in any way.
No, I'm sure you're aware, like some boats have a recessed pedal for the trolling motor.
Uh-huh.
I keep mine not recessed, but I mean, I don't really know that that's modified. I mean, some boats don't have a recessed pedal.
Mm-hmm. Do you modify your truck?
I have hand controls in the truck.
Hand controls.
Yep. I used to have a wheelchair lift in the back, and it kept breaking or dropping my chair, and it'd rain, and my chair would be wet. So I've got an extended cab, and I just open the door and throw it in the back seat.
Yeah. So what about tying a lure?
Carefully.
Yeah.
Got lots of shirts with holes. No, I mean, most of the time I just hold it to my chest and do the best I can. Pretty quick most of the time. Mm-hmm. I've done it enough that I don't even think about it. You know, I just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about just casting of your rod out? I mean, you're casting your line. What's the technique for you with that?
It's not a lot different. I use like leverage. You know, like when I throw, I use my left hand to kind of push up on the butt of the rod as I'm throwing.
It's kind of like a flick type
kind of
movement.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's hard to explain it. That's not anything I've ever just sat down and explained how I did. I don't know. Just figured it out.
What about, like, I'm trying to picture you in this tournament, and you got a lot of money on the line here. So you hook that big. You have to be solo. I mean, when you're out there fishing, it's just you.
Well, sometimes we do what's a draw, where you draw a co-angler to go in the back, and it's a random draw. Mm-hmm. Summer team tournaments. Now, this deal next year is just me.
That's what I was thinking. I read there was no co-anglers.
Yes.
Okay, so you're in this tournament. You got that fish on there. You think, okay, this could put me in first. This is for $50,000. You got a big one, and how you going to net that fish by yourself? What's your technique for this?
Well, that's where it's going to get real interesting, because one of the rules for next year is no nets.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to get to the back of the boat where I can lean over, because it's lower to the water in the back, and lip this fish without it coming off, which I may have a sad story to tell you next year about that, but hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. But is this something have you practiced this? Have you done this much?
When not on purpose. I won a tournament several years ago. I was by myself, and I was in the river, and it was flowing real hard, and the first fish I hooked was a 5-pounder. And when I went to net it head shook and jerked the net out of my hand, the net sunk. So I was like, oh no, what do I do? So I ran back there and I lipped it, and I got in the boat, and I weighed like 18 pounds that day. I had 2 more 4-pounders, and I had to go back there and grab all of them. So I have done it. Now, with this invite coming out and knowing that I was fishing next year, I've actually started this year anytime I'm just fun fishing. If I'm tournament fishing and net's allowed, I'm still going to net the fish. But just fun fishing, when I've hooked some good fish, that I've made it a point to go back there and lip them myself. Even if somebody's with me, just tell them, just stand out of the way. Let me go lip them, because I need some practice. And it's not bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and knowing you like I do, I guarantee you hadn't even asked for any type of an exception for you in doing this. I know that, I knew the answer to that question before I asked it, because I know how you are, and you wouldn't even ask for something like that. What's the biggest bass you ever caught?
In Arkansas, it was 842 out of Greer's Ferry. Overall, I caught one that was 1 ounce shy of 10 pounds, 915 in Florida.
Man. What about with either one of those in competition or
The Greer's Ferry one was.
It was.
It was. It was. It was a good day.
Yeah. So you went home with the check that night.
We did.
Yeah. Are your tournaments during the day or at night?
Both. We've got the ones next year. They're all the big ones are all during the day. But I fish about 20 a year at night. They fish of the evening on the river at Little Rock. I fish a bunch of those. So.
Now you're also, it's not just fishing that you do. You're a true outdoorsman. You like to hunt. You like to do it all. So what other kind of hunting do you do, or what kind of hunting do you do in addition to fishing?
I love the deer hunt, and I love to grow deer. I mean, I like watching them and being selective and killing good deer. I duck hunt some. I hadn't had duck boat in a couple of years, so not as much as I used to. But I duck hunt some. I have turkey hunted. I killed a turkey kind of almost on accident one day because we didn't really know what we were doing, but it came in strutting and I killed it. But really, duck hunting and deer hunting are my main things. Like I said earlier, I swear I just try to catch enough fish to pay for my hunting trips.
That's the goal. Huh?
That's the goal.
So, deer hunting, you rifle,
muzzleloader, bow. Shoot a compound bow.
You shoot a compound bow.
Yes, sir.
How do you do that? Again, forgive the questions, but you got me curious on how you managed to do all this stuff.
So on most compound bows, they have like I don't know what's called a wrist sling or whatever, the little rope that's around it. Mm-hmm. So I put my left hand through that sling, and when I shoot and release, the bow just falls on that little rope, and I have yet to drop it out of a deer stand. I actually wore a sling like a rubber. They make a compound sling that like you can put over your shoulder and carry a bow in or whatever. And I wore it for about 2 years every time I shot because I was afraid I was going to drop my bow, and then I realized I never did, so I quit wearing it. But I just, I put my left hand in there, and really those that know much about bow hunting is, you don't want to grip that handle anyway. You want balance because that's where your steadiness comes from, and so you don't tweak the bow one way or the other. So I just balance it against the palm of my left hand and draw.
It's like this is you. This is what I hope the audience understand. This is Hunter. He's got things he's overcoming here, physical boundaries that you just leap over. So you go hunting, you kill a deer with a gun, but it's like, oh hell no, that's not good enough. Get me a bow and arrow. What's a slingshot? That's what I'm gonna hear about you next. Up there killing one with a slingshot, shooting it between the eyes.
Throwing star, a ninja star. That's next.
Ninja star. Oh, that's awesome. So what about when you're shooting? What's your technique for that? I mean, you pretty much just using like the left arm for balance the same way.
Talking about shooting a gun.
Yeah, shooting a gun. Yeah,
just balance. Yeah, put the left arm on the forearm of the gun. Mm-hmm. If I'm shooting a rifle, like on a rest, a lot of times I actually put over. Like a lot of people lay it on top of the scope for steadiness. But yeah, that's just balance it on my left arm and shoot.
When you're duck hunting, you just hunting out of a boat primarily, or?
Yeah, sometimes we'll take a boat in and like a lock on, and put the lock on the tree, and then put the lock on facing away from the hole you're going to shoot. Mm-hmm. And then I can lean up against the tree just like you go stand behind the tree. I just sit on a lock on.
Gotcha.
I don't hide as well, but I still hide pretty good doing that.
Uh-huh. What going back to the deer hunting? How'd you do last year?
I killed one little 8-point here, and then I actually met some new friends last year through fishing that farm in Ohio, and they invited me out, and I killed a pretty nice deer. It was my first buck with my compound in Ohio last year. I was tickled to death about that. I put about 7 days in before I killed this deer. So
How big?
Just it's an 8-point, like 100 probably 25 inch 8-point. I actually hadn't even put a tape on it.
Yeah. What's your best deer as far as the rack?
Points would be a 12. Score wise would be 141 inch 10-point.
That's not bad.
I like my deer. That's what we were talking about earlier. Is mountain deer. I'm out of room to hang deer mounts.
Is that according to your wife or according to you?
Well, it's according to what I agreed with my wife before we got married. So I've got my one room and it's full. So I guess I'm going to have to build a bigger room.
Yeah, exactly. You just need a bigger place.
That's right.
Need a bigger place. Let me ask you this. It's going back, I guess, kind of relating to some of the earlier stuff that we talked about. But, like, if you – let's just imagine an alternative universe here. Let's say you had a time machine. You could go back. You go back in time, and you could talk to Little Hunter. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you're 6, 7 years old, what would you say? What kind of advice would you give?
Dang, that's a hard question. You didn't give me this heads up.
Oh, you don't need it. I want to hear the truth.
Gosh, I don't know. Keep your mouth shut instead of running your mouth, and you'll get a lot less spankings. Get in trouble a lot less. Not just spankings.
Yeah.
My whole life.
I can relate to that.
Man, I don't know other than that. I don't really live with any regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tickled to death with the life I've got, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm happy with how it's turned out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that I would change much other than maybe be a little kinder to my parents at times when I was running my head.
Yeah, I think we can all check that box right there. I know I can for sure. Who's your hero?
Man, I don't know. I've got several. Both my grandpas for different reasons were my hero. One business wise, and one just taking me fishing. Mm-hmm. My great grandpa is probably one of them. I've fished. He didn't bass fish, but he's probably as close as anyone as far as fishing as much as I fish. I mean, he fished at 94. He was pulling the boat out of the bed of the truck and putting a battery and a motor on it and fishing twice a day.
Wow.
So every day.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like some of that grit and determination. You may have inherited a little bit of that with a story like that.
Yes, sir.
Well, man, if he was your hero, you're one of mine. I mean that sincerely, and this is not me just trying to be nice to the guests. This is not me blowing smoke. You really are, man. The grit and determination that you have, it is inspiring. It inspires me, and I cannot wait to see how you do with this new fishing league. We are all going to be pulling for you. I can't wait to see how you do. My money is on you. I think you're going to do great. And so, man, best of luck with that. I can't thank you enough for being with us on this podcast.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. You
bet. Well, thanks for coming. Hey, we got one more thing here. We're sitting at a card table. All right, so we got to play card. We don't have time for a good game of poker for you to take all my money. But let's just see here. Let's have a quick game of war. You want to cut them?
Yeah, I can cut them. Got it.
So, 2 cards, and we're only playing for $100 if I win.
Okay.
What you got?
200 if I win, right?
What you got?
I have got a joker.
A joker? Does that mean that's a wild card? I got a 2.
I don't even know what a joker is anymore.
I don't think a 2 can beat anything, so I guess we got it. It's a wild card. I guess you got the ace of spades in.
There you go.
Hunter, man, thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you, Brad.
Yeah, man, enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.